Hey guys, it's a long day, right? Rather if we skip all that and we go directly to the cocktails right now. I think you all feel like that, but so I'll try to stay fairly short. It's a subject I'm super passionate about, mostly because I used to be in local, and I'm working now with one of my co-founders who's kind of a geek, image recognition guy who's looked at large data sets, and it's a little bit of our two experiences together that we're combining today. But anyway, so a couple of words quickly. I think Laura did a good job on myself, so no point there. What we're trying to do at Placemeter is, in a way, indexing the physical world in real time. So if you think of Google as the place where you index the internet, Google is in some way a subset of what we're aiming to try to capture. And the way we're doing that is we're mixing that with big data sets that we're ingesting, and we're mixing that with proprietary sensors that we deploy in locations, as well as crowdsourced sensors where people actually deployed old phones by their windows and captures metrics for that. And the end game is really to have a sense of how places are and how the world is moving in real time around you, and not only limited to traffic, but also places and locations and movement and so on. This is a fun, just quick thing. This is a little bit how we view the world, right? Like this is a video of our window outside of Techstars in New York, and so we capture a bunch of stuff through that. We know the number of people walking down that street. We know how many people are actually entering and leaving that hotels here, how many cars are passing by, how many people are seeing that billboard, the make and model of the cars and so on. So we're all about kind of like aggregating as many data feed as we can, and then there's a bunch of different application, mostly for retailers initially, but there's other stuff we're looking at. So moving away from Placemeter, just taking a step back, the thing that got me excited, that I feel we're kind of like at the junction of a very interesting moment where there's big needs for those type of real-time data, and it's met with existing infrastructure, and that makes it possible today what was not really possible yesterday. And so the first stuff is the ability to actually make sense of huge amount of data sets, and for that we have pretty good big data tools right now. Mobile, but not only mobile, just in general, distributed sensors and connected devices and so on that enables companies to actually capture a lot of those data feeds. And then kind of like cheap hardware, right? This is actually an interesting one, because if part of your solution is around deploying sensors, then this is something that makes a lot of sense. And so that makes it possible to go for kind of like smarter places at massive scale, and that's I think what's exciting. So not going to spend much time on that. You guys know that huge amount of close to saturation on mobile footprint, huge amount of smartphones. Hardware is kind of like the new software, and it's good because it makes a lot of projects, and a lot of those projects are crowdsourced everywhere in the world, possible today because you don't really have to rely on traditionally VC funding type of money, right? And VC has been always kind of like shy about hardware project. Well, today you can actually, whether you use Kickstarter or Indiegogo or a couple of other platforms, you can raise money for those type of projects which have to rely on VC. People that can help you optimize your hardware and make it cost effective. This is a great firm we work with. You can build it, and you've seen some of those guys, the Pebble Watch of the world and so on. And then, there's even a bunch of different applications where you can actually sell that hardware. So that's one side of it. The second side, very quickly, Hadoop and Cassandra, I'm sure you guys are all familiar, but that makes also kind of like, that's kind of a key building block in that ecosystem. And then, that's actually me last night. That's my sleep pattern from the up end that I have here. See, not tons of sleep here, but this is another thing where you see hundreds of thousands of users actually pushing self-quantified data to the cloud, and then connected devices, the other one, where analysts are predicting about 50 billion connected devices by 2020. So that's tons of existing data that are going to be flowing into the infrastructure. And that's actually pretty great, because when you look at the metrics around cities and the need that those cities will have to and the challenges they'll face, it's pretty critical. So by 2020, analysts are thinking that about 90% of Americans will live in cities, and then world population is going to go to 10.5 billion. That's kind of like current projection. So you see all of that, and you realize that you need it's going to be more and more intense, more and more people around, and so there's really going to be a need for evening out traffic and optimizing spaces and so on. And you see that already in China, but it's probably going to be a fairly widespread model pretty soon. So that creates kind of a big market around optimization and smart city projects. And if you look at the next 10 years, just the US alone, they're projecting about $500 billion invested in kind of like smart city projects, right? So big market, and then the main project that those guys are looking at is leveraging all of those sensors and the public data feeds and so on to have an impact on, crime and pollution and traffic and congestion problems. And part of the solution is to actually have the data to do that. So there's a couple of companies that have started working on that. I have a slide on that. One project I thought was really interesting is City of Memphis, who used a bunch of sensors and then looked at the data and actually had an impact on crime by less than 30%, reducing 30% of the crime in the city by just using the existing data feed and correlating with on the ground kind of police effort. So one thing that I thought was funny is that they realized there was a correlation between car theft and rainy days, right? And I guess it kind of makes sense, because if you're car theft and you're under the rain, then might as well kind of like get yourself on the roof. But those things are kind of like interesting insights. And then the ecosystem is kind of like already in place. There's tons of existing building blocks that will help kind of like launch that. And so when you take a step back and you look at everything that's happening around that, right, smart cities and so on, and then you look at what's happening on local search, you realize there's still a little bit of a disconnect between the two experiences, right? And so I feel that's where there's a huge need potentially of kind of like changing the way people are searching around them and using some of those experiences, but doesn't really stop there, to have in real time how places are. And back to what the previous panel was saying, I think one of our beliefs is that the next generation is actually going to be using those type of tools to check how places are before going. And so that's a piece. There's some developments. It's kind of it's still pretty slow. There's a big market coming up, some potential. We see good demand on the retailer side for those type of solution where you link external sensors in city with traffic, and then kind of like with the end game of customizing your shopping experience as you go into a store. And then I just wanted to finish up with two use cases that we're working on that I think is interesting. The Starbucks is working with us to potentially share in their iPhone apps where the nearest seats available around you, right? So what they found out is that they have about 19% of bounce rates, so people who come in at peak time and then leave immediately. And a big part of that is because people want to sit down and they don't see a seat available and they go across the street, right? So what if now by using those networks of sensors you're able to actually see where the closest seats available? And so that's an interesting place where you increase revenue for a merchant, but you also bring a better customer experience for you and me. And then the other one is JetBlue, who's it's kind of a similar use case where you're looking at measuring how long the wait is at security checkout at the airport. And then because you have the app and you checked in on the JetBlue app, we know how far you are from the airport. We push that data to you and we say, listen, there's about 25 minutes wait time right now for checkout. But so that's a valuable information, I believe. And then the second one is if you actually want to cut the line, here's there's a $10 pass you can buy right now from your app and actually cut the line. So good stuff. I'm out of time. Always kind of like interested in talking more. So if you guys, I'll be here later today. But thanks a lot for listening to me. Take care.